The door of Brennan's cafe slammed open so hard every cup rattled. Customers looked up, confused, just in time to see a terrified young woman signing frantically, her chest rising in sharp, uneven breaths. "Please, someone help me," her hands pleaded in the air. No one understood her. Not until a little girl at the corner table tugged her father's sleeve. "Daddy, why is the lady crying?" The woman, Mallory Sinclair, 24, deaf since childhood, turned toward them with eyes so full of fear it felt like the whole room froze. She pointed behind her, trembling. A man in a gray hoodie stood in the doorway, smiling like he owned her fear. "He won't stop following me," she signed with shaking hands. "He's been stalking me for weeks." Most of the cafe didn't grasp a single gesture, but the father did. He stood up slowly, placing his daughter behind him, and signed back with steady hands. "I understand you. You're safe now." That was the moment everything changed. For her, for him, for the little girl watching. And what happened next stunned an entire town. If this story pulls you in, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales so you never miss the moments that change lives. The moment Wyatt stepped between Mallory and the man in the gray hoodie, the entire cafe seemed to tilt into a different reality. Conversations died. Forks hovered mid-air. Even the hum of the espresso machine felt quieter, as if the whole room sensed the shape of danger standing by the door. Gregory Dalton didn't move. He didn't blink. He simply watched Wyatt with a lazy confidence that made Mallory's hands tighten around the edge of the table. She could feel the tension in Wyatt's shoulders, the way he shifted his stance to block the man's direct line of sight. Julie clung to his sleeve, her eyes bouncing from her father's face to Mallory's trembling hands. Wyatt signed to her under the table, steady and slow. "I need you to breathe. You're not alone anymore." She nodded, though panic still crawled up her spine. He stood and approached Gregory with deliberate steps, every muscle tight, controlled. "Can I help you with something?" Wyatt asked aloud, his voice calm but layered with steel. Gregory's smile widened. "Just waiting for my friend. She and I have a misunderstanding." His eyes flickered toward Mallory, lingering too long, too hungrily. Wyatt followed that gaze and felt something cold settle in his gut. "She's not your friend," he said. "And you're not staying here." Gregory lifted a brow. Big words from a guy with a kid to protect. Wyatt didn't flinch. "The police are already on their way." For the first time, a crack appeared in Gregory's expression, barely there, but visible enough for Mallory to recognize it. His composure wavered. Then his jaw tightened, and something like annoyance flashed across his face. "She overreacted," he muttered. "People misunderstand things all the time." Wyatt's voice sharpened. "She didn't misunderstand anything. You followed her for weeks." Gregory shrugged. "She's dramatic. Deaf people are always so emotional." That sentence, said with a smirk, hit Mallory like a slap she didn't hear but felt. Julie gasped softly, clinging to her father's hand. Wyatt's expression froze. "Say that again," he whispered. Gregory didn't get the chance, because at that second, two police officers entered the cafe, the bell chiming behind them. The barista pointed straight at Gregory. He tried to bolt. Wyatt lunged before the officers did, using his body to block Gregory's path. The officers tackled him cleanly, his shoulder smacking the floor as the cuffs snapped around his wrists. The cafe erupted in murmurs, shock, anger, guilt, relief woven together in every face. But that moment wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The police took statements. Wyatt interpreted everything for Mallory, every ugly detail, every question she'd swallowed for 2 weeks because no one else could understand her. When the officers escorted Gregory out, he shot her a look that made her stomach twist. "You'll regret this," he hissed. Wyatt stepped forward before the officer could react. His voice was quiet, deadly calm. "No, she won't." Gregory was shoved into the patrol car and driven away. But danger didn't disappear just because he was gone. Over the next weeks, The weight of what happened settled over Mallory like a fog. Sleep became a stranger. When she walked home from work, she checked over her shoulder every half block. She jumped at shadows, at sudden motion, at the scrape of a shoe behind her even when it was nothing. "Are you sure they'll keep him locked up?" she signed to Wyatt one night at the police station, her hands uncertain, trembling. Wyatt glanced down at the file he held. "He's not getting out anytime soon. But restraining orders don't erase fear." "I know. Then why don't I feel safe?" she signed, her eyes filling. Wyatt stepped closer. "Because safety isn't a moment. It's something you rebuild." He said it gently, and yet there was a firmness there, something that held her together on nights she thought she'd fall apart. Julie, in her innocent way, became a quiet anchor. She practiced new signs every weekend. One Saturday she tapped Mallory's arm and signed slowly, "You're brave." It broke something inside Mallory, something heavy she had carried too long. Then came the hearing. Courtrooms had always been uncomfortable spaces for her. So much sound she could see but not access. But Wyatt stayed beside her every second, interpreting with calm precision, pausing when she needed time, steadying her when her hands faltered. Gregory entered wearing an orange jumpsuit, still trying to hide smugness beneath his bruised ego. But the evidence was damning. Surveillance footage, witness statements, his past records. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" the judge asked. Gregory lifted his chin. She was lying. She wanted attention. Wyatt signed each word for Mallory, watching her expression shift from fear to disbelief to something stronger. The judge frowned. "Attention. For being stalked," Gregory muttered. "People like her always want sympathy." The judge's gavel slammed down. "Enough. You're facing charges including stalking, harassment, and violating prior restraining orders. You've shown no remorse. Sentencing will reflect that." For the first time, Gregory's confidence cracked completely. His punishment was swift and heavy. Years behind bars, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, and a permanent restraining order. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was justice. Life didn't become light overnight, but it began to shift. Wyatt and Julie became constants in her world. Warm, steady, present. Even on days when the fear still flickered in her chest, there was always someone who understood her hands, her silence, her world. One night after the hearing, as they walked home together, Julie reached up, slipping her hand into Mallory's. "Miss Mallory," she said softly. "Daddy says the bad man won't come back." Mallory smiled. "I know." Julie squeezed her hand. "Daddy says you're the bravest person he's ever met." Wyatt laughed under his breath, signing with one hand while holding Julie with the other. "She is." Something warm opened inside Mallory. Something she had forgotten could exist. But the story didn't end with peace. It ended with power. 2 months later, Mallory received a letter from the district attorney. Gregory wasn't just sentenced. He was connected to a separate case he had long escaped responsibility for. Her testimony helped reopen it. Other victims came forward. For the first time in his life, Gregory Dalton would face the full weight of the system he'd been slipping through for years. When Mallory read the letter, her hands trembled, not with fear this time, but with something steadier. Relief, closure, victory. She signed the news to Wyatt with a smile that reached her eyes. "He can't hurt anyone anymore." Wyatt stepped closer, brushing her hair behind her ear with gentle confidence. "Because you stood up. 'Cause you survived. Because you refused to stay silent, even when you couldn't speak the way the world expected." Julie threw her arms around both of them. "Does this mean the story has a happy ending?" Mallory knelt, signing back. "It means the bad guy finally got what he deserved." Julie beamed. "Good. He was mean." Wyatt laughed softly, wrapping an arm around them both. "Yes, sweetheart. He was." As they stood together, one small family formed by circumstance, courage, and the language of hands, the cafe door behind them opened, letting the warm evening light spill across the sidewalk. The same place their lives collided now felt like the beginning of something new. A place where fear once entered, and where hope now lived. And just when the world seemed steady again, the district attorney called with one final update, one that landed like the final piece of justice snapping into place. Gregory Dalton, during his intake processing at the state facility, made the mistake of threatening another officer. His sentence was extended. His privileges revoked. His release date pushed far beyond anything he had expected. Wyatt hung up the phone, turned to Mollery, and signed with a slow, satisfied certainty. That man will not see daylight for a very, very long time. And Mollery, after months of fear, grief, and survival, felt the weight finally lift, not because someone saved her, but because she saved herself, and found people who stood beside her when she needed it most. When the final letter from the district attorney arrived, Mollery didn't open it right away. She sat by the cafe window, the same window where everything had changed, and let the late afternoon light warm her hands. Wyatt eased into the seat across from her, Julie climbing into her lap as if it were the most natural place in the world. "Do you want me to read it?" Wyatt asked. She shook her head. Not this time. Her fingers slid beneath the envelope flap, steady in a way they hadn't been months ago. Inside was a single page confirming what she'd hoped for but never allowed herself to expect. Gregory's extended sentence was final. No early release. No loopholes. No chance to walk toward another unsuspecting woman ever again. Mollery exhaled. A slow, quiet release that felt like closing a door she had carried on her back for far too long. She looked at Wyatt, then at Julie tracing shapes on her wrist, and realized something simple but profound. She no longer viewed her silence as a weakness. It had become the place where her strength lived. "Are you okay?" Wyatt signed. She nodded. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." Outside, the cafe sign flickered to life, casting a soft glow across their table. And for the first time, she felt the world shift toward possibility instead of fear. If this story moved you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and help Canada's Heartfelt Tales grow by subscribing to the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.